Services meeting, October the 7th, 2019 at 12 o'clock. We got 3 items. First item is bid results for the 2019 Kurd in place pipe projects. Mike.
Well, it's a nice day today there, council members, and thank you for hearing the wastewater utility with regards to the bid results of this year's CIPP project. Today, first would like to thank General Services for working the wastewater utility in. This typically goes before Public Works. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll give you the bid results and our request for awarding the contract. First, a little history. What is Kurd? What is CIPP? It stands for Cured in Place Pipe. So basically, we take a material that you see up here. That's a fabric that's impregnated with a resin. We essentially pull it from the inside out inside a sewer line. After we pressurize the line and heat it up, it forms a hard pipe, similar to what our new sewers are being installed to this date. These are clean. You're more than welcome to look at them.
You have to prefix it.
Little wastewater humor for you
Should have
folks.
served us some nachos on it or something.
Well, finger food. So here on this slide, you can see a before and after shot. This is at the same location, so we're able to take a broken pipe and actually line it to where it looks new. This is a trenchless technology, does not require open trench work. As you can see, we've already done some work on Appleway right in front of Tiorama. That's right next to Government Way. And it has very minimal impact compared to an open trench project. So back in April of 2019, we pre-qualified 3 contractors through the state of Idaho's Category B bidding process. Why do we pre-qualify? We have an example of a starter company that lined one of our pipes, leaving debris underneath the liner. While that does not appear to be significant, when we have to pull an 8-inch mandrel through that pipe, we are unable to do so. And if it gets lodged, we have to actually dig it up and replace it. So on August 21st, 2 of the contractors pre-qualified. We sent out bids to these contractors for a base bid rehabilitation project. Starting at Wallace and 12th, we're able to go 1 block to the east and several blocks to the south across Sherman to this alley. This is a 24-inch B interceptor line, and as you can see, the pipe is a concrete pipe that has been corroded severely. This project will also require bypassing all this flow from this manhole to this manhole. Similar to what we did last year over here in McEwen Park, there will be a pipe out on top of the ground to bypass that sewer.
That interceptor looks kind of full. I mean,
We still have plenty of wiggle room.
it looks like it was running at 50%. That's
Keep in mind, that's a 2-foot diameter pipe.
wow.
So we still have plenty of wiggle room.
Wiggle, yeah.
Wiggle room.
Uh-huh.
So on September 17th, we received 2 bids from those 2 pre-qualified contractors, and they were open. This slide shows a breakdown, and as you can see, in situ form appears to be the apparent low bidder. The low bid was based on the base bid, sorry about that. And so we always add additional lengths of pipe under additive alternatives to do additional pipes if the prices come in at a good price and reasonable price. So as advertised to the instruction of bidders, the basis of the award was based on this base bid right here. and it appears that in situ form provided the lowest base bid. Wastewater planned and budgeted for this project, has available funds for this base bid as well as additive alternative 1. At this time, wastewater does not recommend awarding additive alternative 2, as we found that the prices were slightly elevated and that would take us above our budget. In situ form Technologies has successfully completed 3 previous CIPP projects within the city, and including the 2018 project that was right here next to City Hall. All this work was done to our satisfaction. Here's a performance price sheet that was produced by our consultant. And as you can see, the prices have remained relatively constant for an 8-inch pipe at $22 a linear foot. This red line represents the construction cost index pricing to account for inflation. As you can see, that this year's bids are right in line with where the CIPP project was for last year's project. The expected pipe design life will extend our sewer collectors another 50 to 100 years. The city of Coeur Lane, since 2005, has lined 20.7 miles of pipe. Whoops. CIPP, when compared to open trench costs, has saved the city over $3 million. It costs roughly about $150 a linear foot to replace a sewer line versus the $22 a linear foot for lining it. As the previous slide shows, we have minimal impact to the surrounding area, and instead of taking weeks, CIPP only takes hours. So our recommendation is that we accept the bid and award the base bid with additive alternative number 1 to In Situ Form Technologies for the wastewater utilities 2019 CIPP project in the amount of $721,274. Keeping in mind our goal is this year is to line nearly 7,000 feet of pipe. This, again, was right next to City Hall last year when we did this. So you can see how we did the old pipe with a big hole in it to this new pipe. And with that, I will entertain any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
The add alternative number 2, what did that include? Was that another
That included
section?
an additional, I want to say an additional mile of reaches.
And so you'll eventually be coming back to us to add that in later.
Correct. Additive alternative number 1 is actually the add alt that we had for last year's project. We go through a prioritizing our pipe to be rehabbed, and it still doesn't change from last year, so we've added it to this year's
Okay.
project.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Ron. You do this every year. I mean, this has been since, 2005, the city has gone through this process.
Almost every year. What we have found that in the past, we used to do CIPP as well as an open trench project within the same year. We found the costs started elevating, so what we do is we take the budget for open trench work, we put it into the CIPP, making the project much larger, more enticing to contractors to give us a better bid. Next year, we will do all the open trench projects that would have normally been scheduled for this year.
Okay. And why would we go with open trench instead of CIPP when it's so cheaper, so much cheaper?
That's a very excellent question, Councilman Gookin. When the pipe, CIPP will conform to whatever condition the pipe is in. When the pipe has a belly in it or has deteriorated beyond rehabilitation, we find that we have to open trench to replace it. Often is the case, the city has a bunch of undersized pipes out there that should be 8-inch diameter. We schedule those projects as those pipes start to deteriorate Rather than lining them, we open trench, replace them, and upsize them to the appropriate size.
Well, thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions? Okay, need a motion.
So I'd move that council approve the bid results and agreement with Instituform Technologies LLC for the Cured in Place Pipe CIPP project in the amount not to exceed $721,274.
Second.
So it says on here to place this on the consent calendar, but it's $700,000, but it's something you guys do every year.
Yes.
So I don't know, what does the other members of the committee think about putting it on consent versus agenda?
Well, I don't care.
I don't have strong feelings.
Well, let's put it on, if it's okay, I would like to put it on the agenda since this is normally a public works item.
Yes.
And maybe they would have some questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thanks, Mike. Item number 2, adopt a historic preservation code ordinance. Hillary.
All right, good afternoon, council members. I am here before you regarding a proposal to adopt a historic preservation code in support of the city of Coeur d'Alene becoming a certified local government and therefore being eligible to receive some grant funds from the state. So a little background, so the staff members from the Idaho State Historic Preservation Office, which we call SHPO, have been in Coeur d'Alene a few times in 2019. They came to us in May and again in August and met with some staff members and met with Councilmember Miller to talk about the Certified Local Governments Program and about Coeur d'Alene and how we could fit into that puzzle. We're one of the largest cities in the state that is not a certified local government, and they thought it was very important for us to consider becoming a program. So they gave us some sample ordinances and some other information about the program and then qualifications for commission members. So in your packet, I did attach the CLG introduction, and so I think that does answer a lot of questions about what is a CLG. And it really is communities that are working toward having more of a commitment to historic preservation, working with SHPO, and then also working with the National Park Service to kind of recognize what are our historic resources in the community. And so this is really the first step, is to bring forward an ordinance to establish a commission. And then if council is in support of that, then we would apply to become a certified local government. And at which point they decide we are, then we could apply right away before the end of the year to receive some grant funds. So in kind of looking at the financial analysis, it's really would not be a big impact to the city because how the ordinance is structured, we're not adding a design review component to it. It truly is, we're forming a commission that can help weigh in on projects that do have some historic resources, and it could be a benefit to our comprehensive plan. It would be housed in the planning department, and we would meet quarterly with the commission, and so it would really be minimal time just in preparing for the meetings, holding the meetings, preparing the minutes, and then if we apply for any grant funds. And there is a match requirement, but we can use the city's loaded costs, so any staff members that apply, help, do any of the work leading to application for grants, and then volunteers as well. They have a $22 per hour rate that can be used for that match requirement. For the performance analysis, I already mentioned kind of that we really are the largest city in the state that's not part of that. Of the 201 incorporated cities, there are 37 CLGs in Idaho, and some of those are counties, such as Kootenai County. And so it really would help if we could get this ordinance in place. It would show our community members that we are supportive of preserving our history, and that's not just buildings, but places and kind of more of the stories and culture in Coeur d'Alene. Some examples of things that could be supported are even our White House relocation for the museum. It's possible there might be some grant funds that could assist with that. And it also provides more of a platform for residents and neighborhoods if they wanted to come forward and do a voluntary designation as a historic district. So as structured in this draft ordinance, we would look at providing 9 commission members, and they would all need to have some interest in historic preservation, and then at least 2 of them would need to meet more of the specific criteria, which is really, do they have architectural historian? Are they an engineer? Are they a curator? Things like that that would truly show that they've met those requirements. One thing I wanted to make sure it was clear is if this goes forward, we're not putting in any teeth saying you can't modify a historic property. It won't restrict people from changing the building. It won't restrict them from pulling a demolition permit. It truly is just establishing kind of the framework for recognizing historic resources in the community. The council at a future date could add those in, and so there are some reserved sections in that draft ordinance that some communities have done for appeals process and design. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. I think it's also important to note, I didn't include it in the staff report, but by doing this, and if there are historic districts or if there's a property that's on a National Register of Historic Places, it's not going to be increasing their property taxes. So there might be someone that's interested in buying a historic property, and therefore maybe the value would increase, but it's not a direct nexus. There's not, automatically all these properties now have increased taxes. So I think that's important to note as well.
They should have the original taxes. Like if it was built in 1905,
Yes, right.
it should be the
Revert
original
back.
property
Wouldn't that
taxes,
be
so like
nice?
$6 a year. Yeah.
There are some rehabilitation tax credits too, that if council's interested, I could find out about that, but it has to be for revenue generating properties. There are some tax credits available. One of the early wins, if council supports this, we would apply for a grant to do a citywide preservation plan. And that's something that SHPO advises communities to do that are new certified local governments. And that really looks at the community as a whole and identifies what are historic resources, and then establishes kind of a plan for moving forward to prioritize how the city would need to apply for grants and just how we would incorporate things into, say, the comprehensive plan or into our city code. And then just overall, it's about $77,000 available statewide in grants. And on average, SHPO is giving grant funds to about 8 to 15 communities. The citywide preservation plan I talked about is about $10,000, just for context. So, and other things that they support using SHPO funds for are trainings and travel, so they could have staff as well as commission members would be able to receive travel and training so that we would all be informed on historic preservation. So the decision point of recommendation is for City Council to adopt the Historic Preservation Code and direct staff to take the next steps to form the commission and to apply to become the CLG and then apply for some of the SHPO grant funds. Be happy to answer any questions.
Who appoints these members, 9 members?
So that would be through the normal process. So the mayor would make the recommendation and City Council would affirm the appointments. And there would be, as noted in the staff report, there would be one council liaison as well, and so the mayor would also make that determination.
Any questions?
Yes. I have some questions, thank you. And you answered most of them, and the staff report was really good, so I appreciate seeing all the information in there. So one was, what was the grant, the December 27th deadline, and that's the 10K grant that we could use.
That would be, yep,
Kind of get us started on this.
correct.
How would this tie into, one of the things people have been talking about out there is historical zones.
Right.
So like they have them in Spokane, and bringing that over here. So like the Garden District is really active, and they would like to create a historical zone. Does that tie into this, or is that, because I've been directing them to go to Envision CDA.
So this would not initially. So I did ask Pete Larange with SHPO that question. And so that would be if council wants to take the next step and designate districts and do design guidelines or something that's more specific to historic areas. We would, however, recognize the two, well, we have currently the one, so Fort Grounds has a historic designation, and Garden District's in the process of doing that. But again, it's a kind of voluntary, it's an honorary designation at this point because we don't have any local ordinance, and this ordinance doesn't have the teeth to say you can't modify or do different things or demolish homes.
So it's really,
again,
the comp plan would be where.
the comp plan would be a great place, and so that citywide preservation plan would kind of be rolled in with the comprehensive plan.
And on the matches, so that was, down there it says that the volunteer rate is $22 an hour. So if you have 9 people on a committee, and I'm not doing the math, that would, and they meet for an hour, that's 9 times 22.
Right.
And then whatever the comparable staff time would be.
Correct. And then any time we put into doing the grant applications as well, so if that's above and beyond those meetings, that would be applied as a match.
That's pretty cool. It does say that it says that the commission will meet only quarterly, but yet in the ordinance, it actually says that at a minimum, they will meet quarterly and that they can hold meetings as necessary. So, I mean, I would assume that after it's up and running, that it would be quarterly, but
Yes.
are you guys ready to handle the load in case they decide to meet monthly or more often?
I think we would recommend that we just meet quarterly initially until we
Okay.
make sure we have a handle on it. So SHPO said we need to meet a minimum of 4 times, and as you noted, we could meet more frequently if we wanted. I
Right.
think initially, we probably would have plenty to do just the 4 meetings and maybe not too much. I think we could handle that within the 4 meetings a year.
Okay, and I think this is a good fit with planning. I am concerned about overextending yourself, because I know that we keep throwing things at you. So we got this, and we got art, and we got Atlas, and we got Health Corridor, and now Envision, and, all this other stuff, and I just don't want to burden you with too much stuff and keep too many balls in the air. So I'm relying on your judgment to say that this is something that you guys can handle.
Well,
Well,
and I
they can
think-
handle it.
Well, I want to ask her first.
No, I appreciate that. I think, if this is something that council wants us to move forward with, I think planning does make the most sense unless you thought another department was a better fit. I think
Definitely fire.
Fire would be great. If we met only quarterly, I think that would help a lot, and if we can
Okay.
kind of manage the workload of it, seems reasonable.
Okay, and then a little concerned about the scope. So originally you said that, this could have some teeth in it, but the teeth parts are blank.
Correct.
So all the teeth parts are blank. But it does say they have the power to make whatever rules are necessary for the execution of their duties. All that stuff would come up to us if,
It would.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
All
And
right.
if there are any things that you see in the ordinance that we need to further refine, we'd be happy to do that before
No, it was
council
just,
adopts
it was
it.
just that.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of it you can't really tell because you got to get them up and running.
Right.
And then you got to find out what if they're like super aggressive or super passive, I mean, then they can take guidance from us or from the community
Right.
to find out what they want. We don't know yet. I mean, we need to create it
Mm-hmm.
and then find out what's going on. But I see wide support for this. I mean, I really do. And I think it's about time we did it, and I'm excited. I think it's cool. I mean, yeah. So I appreciate that you brought it forward.
Okay.
Any questions? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion that council adopt the Historic Preservation Code and direct staff to take the next steps to form a Historic Preservation Commission and apply to become a certified local government.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item
Thank you,
number 3. Declaration of surplus. 2006 public education trailer for the fire department. Kenny Gabriel, Fire
Yes, sir.
Chief.
And thank
Kenny.
you. This is one of those double-edged sword things where back in 2004, we saw a big need for this trailer and went for a grant. We got it. And absolutely loved it. And we used it extensively, and we loaned it out even to Montana, and it was just a great thing. Well, at this year's open house, it was busy. And we've been trying for quite some time to kind of piecemeal it together because it's sat out in the weather for so long, and I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's got that sprinkler room in the front where we showed what residential sprinklers do, and we'd set fires and it'd put it out. Well, there's holes in that, so the complete undercarriage of that is rotted out. We've had to go through electronics because it leaked, because it sat outside forever. We've had to replace those, and we kind of sat down and said, okay, this is a great tool that we use maybe twice a year. It's going to cost us this much money to fix, or through the Kootenai County Fire Prevention Co-op, which we pay into every year, they have a almost brand-new trailer that we can use for free, and if it needs repair, everybody pays the bill, not just us. So we thought it would make the most sense to maybe surplus this. We have a department up in South Boundary County that would love to have it. They have the time to fix it themselves. They'll use it on the whole north end of the state. We can use the co-op's trailer. They can get ours, and I think this is a win-win for everybody.
Any questions?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion that council authorize the fire department to surplus a 2006 public education trailer.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Kenny.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're done. We're adjourned.